everybody. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new episode. So, what are we talking about here tonight? Tonight, I decided that I wanted to spend some time talking about the release strategy from theatrical to streaming and physical for horror films these days. Yesterday, we got the new film Companion released digitally, and it's only been in theaters for under 3 weeks at this point. Yet now it's available for anybody to pick up at home. And that's brought up a lot of chatter online about whether or not this is far too soon for this film to be hitting digital markets when it hasn't been a full 3 weeks that it's been out. And what does that mean for the theatrical model moving forward? Now, the first thing that we really have to understand is that this is very much a unique case. These days, the typical turnaround for non-universal films from theatrical to digital, we're looking at a month typically, and usually within the realm of like 5 to 6 weeks is more accurate, but you're usually not going to get less than a month. Now, if we're talking anything that's on Universal's slate, you're usually looking at 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere in that time span, depending on what that film is, because they're trying to get those movies out super quick onto Peacock. They want to be able to boost up that streaming service. So for the last few years, anything they've released has hit streaming fairly quickly. But in regards to all these other studios that are out there, and especially when it comes to horror, we're trying to get a longer theatrical window for these. Now, there's always been this debate about this, about whether or not keeping films in theaters for an extended period of time ultimately hurts them more than getting those few weeks in to where it's going to be largely profitable. And then at that, go and get your home video money as well. The at-home experience has become very valuable. But again, what is considered too soon? Now, Companion, I got to go see an early screening of this back on January 29th. I'm recording this show on February 19th, and it hit digital 1 day ago. You have 19 days basically that this film spent in theaters, and it made $33 million off a $10 million budget. So it's already made that money back. It's made its budget 3 times over. So it would seem like this would be a fairly big win for a film like Companion, because honestly, if it does spend more time in theaters, which it is, that's a big thing we have to understand, is that Companion is not suddenly just out of theaters. It's still playing in a number of places, even though it's on digital. And that shouldn't shock anybody, as that really is the norm for the theatrical experience these days, that 1 or 2 of the movies that are typically playing at most multiplexes are already going to be available at home, just due to the content that's out and about at this time. Now, if we go back, let's say a couple of months ago, let's talk about Nosferatu, which opened up at the beginning of December. Now, Nosferatu made $177 million off a budget of 50 mil. Again, a little bit over 3 times its budget, the same exact kind of thing that Companion did. Nosferatu, though, spent just about 2 months, though, in theaters before it had its digital release. And yes, there are still theaters that do have some showings of Nosferatu still playing. Typically, it's a lot of last run theaters at this point, but Nosferatu spent close to 2 months without any kind of availability on digital, and it made 3 times its budget as well too. So longer time frame, but the comparison to Companion is still very valid, because even though Companion didn't do 177 million, it still made 3 times its budget in this case. Let's go back a bit further. Back in October, Smile 2. Now, Smile 2, again, it's a property at this point. It's part of a franchise there, so it's got a bit of a lead in. Smile 2 made $138 million off a $28 million budget. Now, this is big. There's a couple other ones on here that we need to talk about how they've done big, but in comparison to Nosferatu and Companion, this is a runaway success, because off a $28 million budget, you've already made more than 3 times your budget at that point there. Did it make more than Nosferatu overall? No, but smaller budget, higher return in that case. So 3 weeks, 2 months, 1 month, the correlation is still there, that money is still very much being made. Terrifier 3 made $90 million off of a $2 million budget. Now, Terrifier 3 only spent a few weeks in theaters. It was very much a limited engagement, but it hit digital 6 weeks after its theatrical debut. Now, with Terrifier 3, it's a bit of a unique situation because compared to all these other ones, all these other films definitely had, I think, bigger, wider release strategies in mind. And Terrifier 3, even though it is the highest grossing non-rated film of all time, this is still not one that was made for wide release like a lot of these other films were. And yes, of course, it did appear in theaters, but, you know, there wasn't a plan, obviously, with a non-rated movie to take up so many screens across the country. That's not going to be something that a lot of theaters are really going to buy into because, again, they're looking for family friendly. They want kids in seats. They want more money being spent that way. So Terrifier 3 gets to be unique, but it doesn't change the fact that smack dab in between what we have our 3 previous films, it still made hand over fist and is probably the biggest winner of the box office in 2024 when you talk about the budget that you had and the box office that you brought back. Heretic, one of my favorite films from last year, spent a month in theaters before it hit digital. Off a $10 million budget, it brought in $57 million. So almost 6 times its own budget. It brought that back in after only a month. Now, the closest comparison to that would end up being Smile 2, just because Smile 2 also only had about a month of release and ended up making about 5 times its budget at that point. So there's your direct comparison. Only a month out. This was an A24 film. It did get the marketing that it should have had for a film at this kind of level, but there wasn't a lot of huge marketing going out for this one either. So 57 mil off of 1 month is actually pretty good for that budget, honestly. And that brings it to the last film to bring up, Speak No Evil. This is a Universal film, so it's been 3.5 weeks about in theaters, and off a $15 million budget, it ended up making $77 million. So this ended up bringing in the same kind of numbers that films like Heretic and Smile 2 brought in, but it had the time span of a film like Companion. And at least with Speak No Evil, you have James McAvoy at front of that, who the brand recognition is there. It's Charles Xavier. It's the guy that's done those M. Night Shyamalan films. He's done so much over his career there that, of course, there's name recognition there. And then for the big horror fans, that being a remake is a big way to pull people in as well, too. So it's interesting to see that Speak No Evil spends about the same time the Companion does in theaters, but it brings in far more into its box office. Now, all 6 of these films are a big success. And the question ends up being, looking across all 6 of them, do we think that the shorter or the longer theatrical run really played a big difference here with people checking these out? And honestly, I don't know if there's correlation here that says it's good or bad either way. Companion is definitely a film that will benefit from hitting digital much sooner because I don't have anybody talking about Companion. Yes, I see the reviews that are online, but if I go to my friend space, if I go to my social media and look at the people that I'm actually friends with, I don't see that popping up that much in chatter. I saw Smile 2 popping up quite a bit when that came out. Saw Nosferatu popping up when that came out a bit as well too. And I saw a little bit of Terrifier 3. Out of the 6 films I've been talking, those 3 were really the only ones that were really catching that recognition. Looking at a lot of these other ones, I think something like Smile 2 makes a little bit more sense holding off on that digital release because that is, again, a franchise film. That is very much a movie that folks are going to have some kind of recognition with it, and therefore, in the long run, can make a little bit more. And a month is the average at this point. So realistically, it's not like it left theaters. It had at least a few more weeks after that to where it was still making some money. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you add another month to its official window, I don't think there's much more coming out of it. We have to realize there's still a lot of people who are choosing not to go to theaters right now for one reason or another. And that, along with the fact that so many people know that a lot of these films are going to be available for them to watch at home so quickly, takes away the idea that this is something that they absolutely have to get done right now. Companion is a very unique situation. Outside of Universal films, I don't think we're going to be seeing that many films this year. They're getting those short theatrical releases that are more than a day or two and then going right to streaming. That's regular, right? That we know, like the Fathom events that they do at like a lot of the theaters that plays for like a day or two and then it's on streaming, usually either the same night or within a few days of that playing. That's still going to be very, very normal. But in terms of what happened with Companion here, to where it's 3 weeks max, a little bit under that for it, it's that digital streaming cycle. I don't think we're going to be seeing that too much because theaters want movies that can play for a few weeks. They don't want all these event films like the they don't want random event films that are only staying in for a couple days and then going right to digital. It doesn't benefit them at all. So I don't think it hurts. I don't think it necessarily helps. It's still right in the middle. We're very much ahead of seeing direct correlation between a short theatrical window and what can actually happen here. But I'm excited to see the way that things can play out over the coming years. I think the theatrical and at-home model is very much going to get shaken up again in the next couple of years, and I'm very interested to see where that'll go. But I'm curious what y'all think about it here. Are films hitting streaming far too quickly these days? Do you want a longer theatrical run? Let me know that in the comment section here. Let's talk about it a little bit. And of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button, folks. I got great reviews for so much stuff still hitting my channel here for you very, very soon. Best way to get subscribed is to get subscribed to my link tree at linktr.ee/T Scary Movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for full episodes, movie news, and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page for 20% off your Fangoria shop order. Take advantage of that, folks. Hit that subscribe button. Again, I got so many great reviews still coming to you. Heart Eyes, The Monkey, more of Mayfair Witches Season 2, more of Dexter Original Sin Season 1. We got so much stuff I'm excited to talk to y'all about. But that's going to do it for me tonight. Appreciate you tuning in. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.